Hi everyone, so Robin here, and this is part 8 of my Pokemon Black and White rerun. So without further ado, let's dive in. A following day after the club explosion, Hilda is doing some training on all her Pokemon, which eventually lead to her Swallow evolving into Leavanny. However, a couple of days later, after King started wandering, Acted approaches Hilbert and suggests that they can have a full 6-on-6 battle. This surprises Hilbert, and as he explains that now Hilbert has a team of 6, he's able to do it. And since he is gonna eventually get to the league, he's gonna have to be cut in the battle with all of his Pokemon. Hilbert, seeing the reason this, agrees to it, and they immediately have a 6-on-6 battle. For the first matchup, Ash goes in with Pikachu, and seeing this, Hilbert decides to match power with power and send in Pignite. Pignite goes in and does as Hilbert said, but it's clear there is still some unsurety, since Pignite does glance at Hilbert at times, questioning if that is really the right move before eventually doing it. That brief hint of doubt, though, is enough for Pikachu to push through and eventually defeat Pignite. Next up, Hilbert said in Braviary, seeing how Pikachu is weakened, it should be able to take it out quickly. While it does so, it still takes a Thunderbolt in the process. Next, Ash sends Incubite, who is able to take Braviary head on. Braviary tries to go in for a superpower, Incubite catches it and hitting it with a Draco Meteor, which eventually takes it out. From that point, it's immediately appearing the Ash in full control, as Duwat is able to get his revenge on Scrafty, Certifies a Trash be able to take down Caracosta, and Larvesta is able to take down Munna. Being down to his last Pokemon, Hilbert sent in Joltik as Ash goes with Zoroark. During their clashes, Ash reveals that Hilbert has been relying too heavily on his heavy hits such as Pignite and Braviary. His other Pokemon are just as strong and he needs to rely on them just as much. And even he's relying on them just as much as his Pokemon relies on him. Seeing his reasoning, Hilbert decides to give everything he has alongside Joltik. Seeing their drive, Ash and Sora refuses to give any less. Eventually, they lock in a fearsome clash, however that causes actually both of them to evolve, with Joltik becoming Galvantula and Sora becoming Zoroark. Being excited, both of them count on new moves, Thunderbolt for Galvantula and Darkbolt for Zoroark. However, eventually at the end of the clash, Zoroark is standing tall, and with Ash still having 5 of his Pokemon, Ash is declared a winner. However, Hilbert is not sad, saying that he learned a lot from this battle, and he's happy that Ash taught him this lesson. A couple of days later, eventually they arrive at a battle club, and just then, they notice a pompous stranger bragging about his funny time. However, just then, Pignite appears out of his Pokeball and approaches the trainer. Eventually, Hilbert realizes that this is the same trainer that banned Pignite as a Tepig. This is getting furious, demanding that he apologize to Pignite. However, the trainer refuses, saying that the Tepig was weak and there was a miracle he evolved in the first place. Getting angry by this, Hilbert then challenged him to a battle, with the kid agreeing just because he wanted to brag more. The two of them having a one-on-one with Pignite versus Darmanitan. Darmanitan is definitely powerful in fire power, and Pignite does it best to keep up. As the battle continues, the trainer taunts Hilbert and Pignite, baiting them into attacking when not ready. Eventually, Hilbert realizes it and thinks that they're not going to allow him to insult or Pignite anymore. Seeing how Hilbert is standing up to his former trainer, Pignite sees that Hilbert is far different from him. And with that, it let out a gigantic gel and evolves into Emboar. The battle immediately becomes a fist fight, both of them delivering powerful jabs, uppercuts, and strikes. Eventually, they go in for a collision between Flare Blade and Emboar's new move, Heat Crash. As the moves collide, Emboar is emerging victorious, and with his former trainer running away, Emboar looks toward Hilbert and giving it a kind smile. Their bond is officially reforged and better than ever. A few days later, Ash and the gang finally made it to get to Azera City, and Ash and Hilbert are ready to go to obtain their 7th gym badge. Once they get to the gym, they get to meet with Azera City gym lead Bryce. As they enter the gym, it's decided that Ash is going to go first, seeing that Hilbert took on the last 2 gym leaders first. So it's now time for Ash. It's a 3-on-3, and the first matchup is Vanillish versus Larvesta. While Larvesta has a type advantage, Vanillish is able to easily move around the battlefield and avoid all the fire attacks. While Larvesta is able to hit it with a fire spin, unfortunately an ice shot barraging in from above causes Larvesta to take some heavy damage. With that, I decided to switch it out and next going for Krokorok. A combination of Dig and Stoners is able to weaken Vanillish enough for it to be taken down by a bite. Next is Cryogonal, and I decided to switch into Zoroark. Using its quick and evasive attacks, it can easily outmaneuver the giant crystal before landing a close-up Night Stage, which is able to take it out. Lastly, Bryce in his final Pokemon, Beartic. and using his raw power is able to outpower Zoroark and eventually taking it out with a powerful Ice Punch. Next is Krokorok, and while it has a type disadvantage, Krokorok still put up a solid fight and hitting Beartic with a powerful attack. But eventually it gets hit by an Icicle Crash which takes it out. Finally, Ash in his final Pokemon, Larvesta. And while Larvesta Fire gives the advantage, Beartic's strength is almost too much. But just then, Larvesta covered itself in a strong flame before suddenly flying up into the air before emerging as a Volcarona, revealing that the Sunbringer had now reached a level where he can finally enter his true form. And as a demonstration of his power, it immediately starts swirling around, forming some sort of dance. And it started when he learned his new move, Fiery Dance. The attacks immediately strike Beartic hard, and it immediately falls on the ground unconscious, giving Ash the win, meaning he now has his 7th gym badge. As they are congratulating Ash on his win, it eventually time for Hilbert to take on Bryce in his gym battle. Hilbert started off with Scrafty, however, Bryce in Cryogonal first, surprising Hilbert since he wasn't expecting this. However, Scrafty's power is able to keep Cryogonal on the defensive. Eventually, Scrafty is able to get in with a close-out focus attack, which is able to take Cryogonal out. Next is Vanillish, and using a combination of Astonish and Ice Shard is able to outpace Scrafty and is able to eventually take it out. Next, Hilbert sends in Braviary, and using his fast mobility and powerful attacks to able to take Vanillish out. And with that, Bryce finds in his final Pokemon, Beartic. As the match is on the way, Braviary and Beartic going for a fierce clash, both attacking with all their might. However, when Hilbert called on the superpower, it immediately rushes towards Beartic. However, Bryce just smiles. As the attack comes in close, Bryce suddenly called on a Sheer Cold, as it immediately blasted Braviary close up range and he crashed to the ground completely covered in ice, where he then declared to be unable to battle. Hilbert was surprised. He wasn't expecting Beartic to have such a dangerous move just saved up in storage. With that, he returned Braviary and he decided to go with his final Pokemon, Emboar. The battle immediately becomes a solid clash of brute strength, both of them pretty much slamming their fists to each other. No regard to defense and just brutal offense. Eventually, it comes to a collision between Arm Thrust and Ice Punch. And when the moves collide, Emboar is the one who's standing, meaning Hilbert is now also playing his 7th gym badge. Not long outside Icera City, Ash, Hilbert, and Hilda are discussing where they're gonna head next. That's when Hilda reveals that he is interested in going to a location known as Pokestar Studios. They're gonna be holding a performance contest there soon, and he wished to participate. After learning that they're nearby to Burbank City, where there's a Pokemon gym, Ash and Hilbert agree to it and decide that that is the next destination. However, before they can leave, all of a sudden they run into Alder, who is immediately in a rush. As they ask him what's going on, he explains that Team Plasma have been spotted near the Dragon's Final Tower, and they're currently up to no good. The trio ask if they can help, and Alder decides to allow it, seeing that he could probably use their help in this case. Once they get to the Dragon's Final Tower, they're immediately impressed by the stunning design by the place, but then they also notice Team Plasma grunts around the place, but they notice that it's the same one that they encountered for the first time, which surprises them, since for a while they've only encountered the Black Dress ones, so it was surprised to see them in their original style this time. Deciding not to ponder about this, Alder immediately goes on the offensive, taking on the majority of the grunts, allowing Ash and the game to enter the tower. As they battle their way through a bunch of grunts, they eventually get near the top, as they have learned that N is up there. However, before they can continue, two people suddenly step in front of them. They reveal themselves being Concordia and Anthea. They are N's close friends, and they're saying that they're not going to allow Ash to pass. As Ash is getting ready to battle, Hilbert and Hilda step in front of him, telling him to allow them to handle these two, and Ash to go ahead. While surprised by this, Ash thanks them, and immediately starts rushing out the tower to confront N. The two girls stare at Hilbert and Hilda, stating them as N's closest friend, they are not going to allow them to interfere with his plan. But that's when Hilbert and Hilda smile, saying that as Ash's friends, they are not going to allow them to deceive. And with that, all of them set out their Pokemon, with Concordia and Anthea sending out to Gardevoir and Gothitelle, as Hilbert and Hilda sent in Braviary and Slowsis. Meantime with Ash, he managed to reach the very top of the tower, where he runs into none other than N. N explains that he's here to finally be able to contact the legendary Pokemon Reshiram, and he's not going to let Ash to stand in his way. And with that, he decides to call upon some of his closest friends, and out of the shadow appears a Vanillish, a Conkeldurr, as well as the shiny Zoroark. With that, Ash refuses to allow N to win, and with that, he immediately sends out Pikachu, as well on calling on Zoroark and Volcarona. N and the shiny Zoroark are surprised. Zorak was seeing his nephew now fully grown into a powerful Zorak, and End was seeing the Sunbringer now with Ash. But decided not to ponder on it, and the battle between these two immediately begins. Down with Hilda and Hilda, Concordia and Effie are tough trainers. Using their combination with Gothitelle, they are able to get the upper hand on Braviary and Seleucus. However, where Hilda and Hilda refuses to give up, having Seleucus try to hold back their psychic attack, while Braviary goes in close to deliver some heavy hits. While they work for a while, a single non-involved psychic attack doesn't really stand much of a chance against two fully evolved ones. Once it's seen to be all over, Seleucus uses all his power and even triggers evolution into Duocean. The battle immediately takes a turn. With Duocean's improved psychic powers, it's able to push back out of war on Gothitelle, and Braviary is able to hit them hard. Back with Ash, the battle has become a tough one, with Volcarona taking on Vanillish, the two Zorak having a duel between themselves, and Pikachu dealing with Conkeldurr. Eventually, Ash decided to call on a combination attack of a Fiery Dance, Night Daze, and Electro Ball. And as all the attacks immediately toward the three Pokemon, and they are all immediately dazed, but not taken out just yet. But it's clear that they won't be able to take more. However, just then, something behind End glows up, and he smiles, telling that this battle has allowed the Russian to see his truth, and now it will now appear. As the light fills the room, out of it appears a mighty white dragon, none other than Reshiram. As Reshiram primal cry, all of a sudden something at the fabric glows, and when Ash looks in to find what it is actually the Darkstone, and smiles, seeing that Reshiram's presence has alerted Zekrom. But Zekrom has not awoken yet, and then goes upon Reshiram's back, telling Ash that the confrontation between Reshiram and Zekrom and the two of them is going to take place soon. So unless Ash is able to awaken Zekrom with the power of the deals, he will fail. With that, End believes Reshiram, and Ash is standing there alone and surprised. When our trio meets outside with Alder, they actually surprised to see Professor Cedric Juniper, and Alder explained that he called him, trying to explain what the situation is about. After they all share their story, Professor Cedric Juniper is surprised and also concerned, seeing how Reshiram is now awake and aiding Team Plasma. They're gonna have to need the power of Zekrom, and currently, the only one who may actually know how to truly awaken him is Drayden. He then reveals that Drayden is the gym leader of Opelousas City, and if anyone can help Ash awaken Zekrom, it will be him. This saddens Hilda though, seeing that means they're going to have to go in a different direction from Pokemon Studio, and she won't be able to attend the contest. She understands that this is far more important, and decides to keep it to herself. Hilbert is also a bit sad, seeing how his sister can no longer compete, and it may take longer for them to obtain their final gym back. However, Ashton turns to them, telling them to go ahead to Werebank and Pokestop Studio, that he can go to Opelousas on his own. This surprises them, trying to tell them that it's not right that they have to go on their own. They should stay together all the way. Ash appreciates that they think that, however, he's telling them that this is his battle. He's the one who has to awaken Zekrom, so in order to do that, he needs to go to Opelousas City. But that does not mean that their dreams have to be put away. He promised them that as quick as he had talked to Raiden, he will meet up with the two of them. They will continue their journey together. While reluctant, they agree that Ash's idea makes sense. With that, they can both enjoy their goals. At the same time, Ash awakens Zekrom to help them against Team Plasma. So with that, the trio decides to split up for now, promising to meet each other once they're all ready. And that will be all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you liked this, and I'll see you all in part 9. Bye!